Welcome to Daily English Conversations. Today, we are exploring a sophisticated C1 level conversation about a very common modern issue: rising electricity bills and negotiating energy-saving habits with a roommate.
In this lesson, we will focus on advanced vocabulary for expressing concern, analyzing data, proposing solutions, and making concessions. Let's jump into our first section, the bill shock.
Oh, look at this. The electricity bill just arrived, and it is absolutely astronomical. I can't believe how much it has spiked compared to last month. It's almost double what we usually pay, which is highly concerning.
Let me see that. Wow, you aren't kidding. That is indeed an exorbitant amount. We really need to look into this because this level of consumption is simply unsustainable for our budget. We need to be more conscious.
Exactly. We need to dissect this invoice and figure out what is driving up these utility costs so dramatically. If we don't implement some drastic measures immediately, next month's bill will be just as painful. Look, the kilowatt-hour rate has actually remained stable, but our overall usage has skyrocketed by 40%.
I agree. Let's sit down and systematically analyze our daily routines and appliance usage to pinpoint where all this energy is going. It's time to find a solution. Let's make a list of our electronic habits. We need to be methodical about this.
Yes, let's look at the breakdown. The heating and cooling segment seems to be the most significant factor, but there must be other contributors.
Let's investigate further. We need to look at every single appliance and see how we can optimize our daily usage.
All right, let's scrutinize our energy consumption patterns. I suspect the primary culprit is the air conditioning system, given how sweltering it has been lately. We've had it running almost continuously, even when we aren't home.
That's a reasonable hypothesis, but we shouldn't overlook the phantom loads. Electronic devices that draw power even when they're in standby mode, like the gaming console, the desktop computers, and chargers left plugged in. They may seem minor, but they add up.
That's a valid point. But phantom loads usually account for only a fraction of the total consumption. If we look at the data, heating and cooling typically consume the lion's share of residential energy, followed closely by water heating and major appliances like the dryer.
True. And speaking of the dryer, we've been running laundry cycles for minor loads quite frequently. Perhaps we should consolidate our laundry and restrict dryer usage to full loads only. That would immediately reduce our energy footprint.
Definitely. Running the washing machine and dryer for just a few shirts is incredibly inefficient. Also, we should check if our refrigerator is set to the optimal temperature, as keeping it too cold wastes a significant amount of electricity.
Good thinking. I read that even a slight adjustment of 1 or 2 degrees can yield noticeable savings without compromising food safety. We should also check the seals on the fridge door to ensure cold air isn't escaping. If the seal is compromised, the compressor has to work overtime.
Yes, let's do a quick inspection of all our major appliances to verify their operational efficiency. That's a solid starting point for our audit. Beyond the appliances, we need to address our personal habits. For instance, I've noticed lights left on in empty rooms quite often. We need to cultivate the habit of flipping the switch whenever we leave a space.
I take responsibility for that. I sometimes get distracted and forget. I will make a conscious effort to be more vigilant. Furthermore, we could transition all remaining incandescent bulbs in the apartment to energy-efficient LEDs. That would be a smart upgrade.
That would be a smart long-term investment. LEDs consume up to 80% less energy and last significantly longer. What about the air conditioning? Could we perhaps raise the thermostat by a couple of degrees and utilize ceiling fans instead?
That sounds feasible. Moving air creates a wind chill effect, making the room feel cooler without actual refrigeration. If we set the thermostat to 25 degrees Celsius instead of 22, the savings would be substantial.
Absolutely. It's all about mitigating waste. Another habit to curtail is leaving our laptops plugged in overnight. Once they reach full charge, they continue to draw trickle power, which accumulates over time. We should also unplug our kitchen appliances when not in use.
I wasn't aware of that. I will start unplugging my chargers as soon as my devices are powered up. Every minor adjustment contributes to the collective effort to lower our carbon footprint and our expenses.
Excellent. It's really about being mindful of our resources. Small daily choices can cumulative make a massive difference on our monthly statement. Let's establish some concrete guidelines so we're both on the same page. I propose we limit the use of the clothes dryer to twice a week, and only after 8 p.m. when off-peak electricity rates apply.
That makes sense, but I'll need to make a concession here. Since I work odd hours, I might occasionally need to wash my uniform during peak times. However, I promise to air dry it on the drying rack instead of using the dryer. That should mitigate the impact.
That is a very reasonable compromise. I appreciate your flexibility. How do you feel about establishing a rule for the thermostat? Let's agree to keep it at 25 degrees during the day and turn it off entirely when we sleep.
I can agree to the daytime setting. However, during the summer, sleeping without air conditioning is quite challenging for me. Could we compromise on setting it to 26 degrees at night with a timer to turn it off after 3 hours?
That sounds like a fair concession. It ensures you stay comfortable while still curbing unnecessary overnight consumption. Let's put these rules on the fridge as a reminder. It will keep us accountable.
Excellent idea. Clear communication and mutual compromise will make this collaborative plan work. I'm confident we'll see a dramatic reduction in our next bill if we adhere strictly to these guidelines.
I agree. Let's monitor our weekly usage online to see if these adjustments are making a difference. It will be rewarding to track our progress.
Definitely. It will turn it into a bit of a challenge for us.
That brings us to the end of our conversation. Let's review some key C1 vocabulary we used today. First, we had astronomical and exorbitant, which both mean extremely high or expensive, especially when talking about bills or prices.
We also used phantom load, which refers to the electricity consumed by electronic devices when they are turned off but still plugged in. It is also known as standby power or vampire draw.
Then, we discussed mitigating waste, which means reducing the severity or seriousness of something, and curtailing habits, which means reducing or restricting them to save energy.
Finally, we talked about making a concession, which is something granted or yielded in response to a demand or during a negotiation.
Learning to discuss these topics in English is a fantastic way to elevate your speaking skills to the C1 level. It shows you can handle complex, real-life situations with nuance and confidence.
If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to Daily English Conversations, leave a comment with your own energy-saving tips, and hit the like button.
Yes, don't forget to practice by writing your own sentences with the new vocabulary in the comments below. See you next time.
Goodbye, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.